I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. I have a problem. A long time ago, a good 30, nearly 40 years ago, we bought a Howard Miller grandfather clock when we lived over in Quincy. We carried it here and there and moved it to 3 different houses. We've ended up with it here, and it worked almost the whole time. We wanted to move it from the living room to the dining room, and when we picked it up, the pendulum fell off. Another dumb move. Should have taken the pendulum off before I moved it. The pendulum hangs on this little hook, and there's a brass strap that comes down out of the clockworks with a little metal bar in it, little steel bar in it that this hangs on. And as it swings back and forth, it regulates the clock. Well, it's fallen off before, actually many times. But the last time, it did something it's never done before. It broke this little brass rod. This little brass rod is what holds on the pendulum itself. This is the weight that the pendulum uses to regulate the clock with. And you adjust the clock speed by moving a screw up and down inside this little slot here. This little screw. This little brass nut engages in this slot and ties onto that and threads onto that brass rod, holds this weight onto the pendulum. Well, when it fell, it snapped this little bit of threaded rod off that goes, and this piece of threaded rod screws into that nut. So now I have to reattach this broken off piece of threaded rod onto the end of that brass rod. Now I probably could buy a new rod, but I think I can solder this onto the end of this and make it work quite well. The joint will be hidden inside the weight, so it won't be a problem. To join these 2 pieces of brass rod together, I bought a piece of this tube that will slide on over that brass rod and make a coupling so that when I solder this, it'll have reinforcement. So now I just have to cut off this little piece of brass rod, which shouldn't take but a couple of seconds. Even with a fine-tooth hacksaw blade, it wants to catch. before I solder this, I need to clean the two threaded pieces, because when you solder you got to have everything chemically clean. You want to have the lead played out onto the brass, and to make that happen you got to have that brass clean. So I'm taking a piece of steel wool and shining up that end. And even though this brass tube is brand new, I still need to clean it. You never know when I got a piece of silicone on it or some other contaminant. And this is alcohol. Handy little bottle, lets me spray it onto things that I need cleaned. I'm soldering. Just a minute, hon.
Sadie's outside. And I think she'd like dinner.
Okay. And we'll see. Well, the pendulum is assembled. Now we just have to go put it on the clock and hope it stays on this time and doesn't fall down or break. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching.
This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the U.S. or 16 in the European Union without the express written permission of the parents or the legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.